What's up, Playmakers? Happy show day. We've got a lot to go over. We've got breaking news regarding a KU soccer alum, World Baseball Classic coverage, and of course, March Madness. We've got all this more coverage and more on Playmakers. To get us kicked off today, we have some news from the soccer world. See what I did there? As KU soccer alum and KC native Rylan Childers has officially signed with the Kansas City Current of the NWSL. Our Emily Baldwin has more.
The Kansas City Current will play their first game of the season this Saturday, and they'll have a new Jayhawk coming with them. Rylan Childers, a recent KU grad, sealed the deal with the Current on Monday, signing a one-year contract with the team after being drafted in January.
I feel blessed and humbled to even be given this opportunity. People that have been watching on TV for years, I'm like, okay, now I'm training with you and learning from you.
And training with them these last few weeks has been nothing short of challenging. Going from college soccer to the pros has been a major transition for Childers.
Being with a team who is of such a high level and such a quick pace, it's been a lot of adjusting for me, for sure. Been trying to learn kind of a new role of, it's not going to be the same role that I had when I was at Kansas, and so trying to figure out how I can find a role and best execute that role to help my teammates be the best they can be.
And according to head coach Matt Potter, Childers has been a great fit for the team so far.
Yeah, I think she's starting to really settle in and starting to really shine, and good on the ball, wants to be on the ball, fits in terms of that within the framework of what we're trying to create, and so I think her best days are still ahead of her.
Also ahead of her is her one-year contract. Childers' focus has shifted from getting an official spot in the team to getting everything she can out of it.
This team is very, very talented, especially in the midfield. And so I think one thing I want to do is just be able to soak up all that I can, learn the most that I can from these girls who have been in the league for a long time, just by putting myself in uncomfortable situations so that I can develop.
Childers and the rest of the KC Current team will take on the North Carolina Courage this Saturday in North Carolina for their season opener.
As March ends here on the Hill, that means two things. Winter sports are ending and spring sports are just getting started. Lauren Ritchie is here for this week's Rock Chalk Rewind. Lauren, what's going on in the spring sports world?
Thank you, Jackson. I'm Lauren Ritchie here with this week's Rock Chalk Rewind. Up first, our softball team, who went on a 5-game winning streak before losing at number 22 Wichita State 9-3 earlier this week. The team will be in Kansas City next week to face UMKC. Our tennis team comes in at number 20 this week after falling to number 14 Texas in Big 12 play on Sunday at the Jayhawk Tennis Center 6-1. Malakaya Nguyenue and Heike Van Vieren are ranked number 61 in doubles pairings, and Nguyenue ranks individually at number 56. The team is on the road tonight in Lubbock, Texas, as they will take on the number 43 ranked Texas Tech Lady Raiders at 5 p.m. The men's golf team is underway in their spring season with 2 past tournaments, the Prestige finishing 18th out of 24 teams. Zach Sokolowski led the way for the Hawks, tying for 32nd. 3 weeks later, the Johnny O at Sea Island with a +10 finish, resulting in 5th out of the 13 teams. The Jayhawks will be in Eugene, Oregon, March 27th through the 28th for the Oregon Duck Invitational. Over to our women's golf team, they just broke the 36-hole record at the UCF Challenge as they were 10 under as a team. The Jayhawks are currently in Phoenix, Arizona for the Ping ASU Invitational, with some Big 12 matchups coming up in the next couple of weeks. Our baseball team is off to a hot start as well. Courtney joins us live from Hoagland Ballpark. Courtney, what can you tell us about their season so far?
It's spring, which means college baseball season is finally in full swing. The Jayhawks are a little bit over 1/3 of the way through the season, and Coach Dan Fitzgerald has got them at an 8-11 record. Now, this is his first time coaching the Jayhawks, and he has had a remarkable season so far. The Jayhawks have been all over the country with their season, starting in Texas and then heading to Tennessee and South Carolina. In the middle of all that travel, we have had one home matchup at Hoagland Ballpark right here in Lawrence. On Wednesday night, Kauffman Stadium hosted a border showdown matchup in Kansas City against Mizzou. The Jayhawks took a tough loss 8-3, but Sydney will be with us later to talk about that showdown. After the matchup, Coach Fitzgerald talked about how special it is to coach this age of boys and how exciting the atmosphere is. Let's take a look. Going forward, the Jayhawks will begin Big 12 Conference matchups tonight as they travel to TCU, where on the mound, Kansas will face former Jayhawk Ryan Vanderhei, who transferred to TCU following the end of last season. This season, Kansas has been demonstrating remarkable defense with a .982 fielding percentage. These numbers have KU ranked 10th in the nation and first in the Big 12 in terms of fielding percentage. Sophomore Chase Jans continues to lead Kansas offensively with a .328 batting average and 15-game hitting streak. This is the longest streak of his career, and he has had 2 home runs and 13 RBIs. On the pitching side of things, Colin Baumgartner leads the team with 27 strikeouts. In my opinion, these guys are holding up some pretty good numbers, and it's been great for the first start of the season. Speaking of the rest of the season, the Jayhawks will have over 15 home games here at Hoagland Ballpark right behind me. Now, for the rest of the show, let's head back to Lauren to see what she has after the break.
Thank you, Courtney. There's a whole lot of baseball left this season, and I'm excited to see what Coach Fitz has in store for the Jayhawks. After the break, we'll be back to recap our men's basketball season. Stay with us.
The Kansas basketball team had an early exit this year from the NCAA tournament as they were defeated by the Arkansas Razorbacks in the round of 32. But that upset was just one of what seems like a ton of upsets this March. Shoots, what else has happened to break some brackets?
Thanks, Jackson. The NCAA men's tournament has been a whirlwind for every team, with big wins and even bigger upsets. I'm Lily Schutzenhofer, and it's time we touch on the bracket-busting highlights of the rounds of 64, 32, and the Sweet 16. On day 1 of the round of 64, the first upset started early with number 13 Furman knocking off number 4 Virginia in a close 68-67 win. Furman was able to steal a big pass from Virginia at the 7 seconds and hit an insane 3 to take the final lead. Later, number 15 Princeton upset number 2 Arizona 59-55. They held Arizona scoreless for about the last 5 minutes of the game to get the win. The second day of the round of 64 brought just as much excitement. Number 11 Pitt took down number 6 Iowa State in a 59-41 win. Pitt's strong defense caused Iowa State to only shoot 23%. In what may be the biggest upset of the tournament, number 16 Farley Dickinson took down number 1 Purdue in a historic 63-58 win. Even though Purdue was on top of the AP poll all season, FDU coach Tobin Anderson said, "The more I watch Purdue, the more I think we can beat them." FDU is only the second 16 seed in NCAA history to win a tournament game. Kicking off the round of 32 on a sad note, our number 1 Jayhawks fell to number 8 Arkansas in a 72-71 battle. While the Jayhawks put it all out there, foul trouble ended up being their downfall. Later that night, number 15 Princeton continued their tear, upsetting number 7 Missouri. This is Princeton's first time in the Sweet 16 since the creation of March Madness. This is the second straight year that a 15 seed from New Jersey makes it to the Sweet 16. Shout out to the St. Peter's Peacocks. On day 2 of the round of 32, we saw number 7 Michigan State top number 2 Marquette 69-62, showing that Tom Izzo's still got it. MSU's suffocating defense allowed them to come out strong offensively. Number 3 Baylor went down to number 6 Creighton 85-76, making Creighton one of 8 teams to appear in 2 of the last 3 Sweet 16s. That was overwhelming, but the action isn't over yet. In the Sweet 16, number 9 Florida Atlantic University showed up number 4 Tennessee in a 62-55 win. Tennessee led until about halfway through the second when FAU took them by storm. To get the win, just think, the tournament isn't over yet. There's more time and more upsets in store. Let's get it to the boys at the round table to talk even more about the Sweet 16 games.
We have made it to the Sweet 16 in Elite 8 rounds here in March Madness and on Roundtable with Reed. We've got 3 special games to break down. Ones that kind of I highlighted from this weekend and this set of the Sweet 16 that I think will be the best games. Let's get this started with our neighbors up there in the Big 12, K-State against Michigan State. This should be a fun game. 2 teams that kind of play a little bit opposite of each other. 2 coaches on opposite ends of the spectrum. Blake, what's your analysis of this matchup?
I have to pick K-State in this one, I think. I think they're a much just better basketball team. As much as it pains me to say it, the brand of basketball they play is incredibly exciting and fun to watch. Got a great duo in Keontae Johnson and Marquise Noel. If they can get the usual 17 and 7 from Keontae, Marquise Noel can be the scorer and passer that he normally is while limiting turnovers, hopefully, K-State can win this game. They're more talented than Michigan State.
Totally.
My only concern in this game is that Sparty is a better mascot than Willie the Wildcat. So I'm going with K-State on the floor.
Two things for me when I look at this game, and then I'll turn it over to Bez. Well, that's a fun way I say it. Turn it over. Marquise Noel, turnovers.
Yes.
That's a big thing.
Yes.
And Michigan State has a coaching advantage. Tom Izzo, obviously the better coach. And then Jerome Tang, inexperienced, but this K-State team is more fun. And I like riding with the more fun teams with more momentum going into March Madness, and that's the K-State Wildcats. So that's who I've got. But Bez, we know Marquise Noel is a turnover problem.
Yes, it's bad. And especially with Michigan State averaging 8 steals a game, Marquise Noel is up to 5 turnovers per game in these 2 NCAA tournament games. I think that's going to be an issue for K-State. I also think since Michigan State does tend to play a slower brand of basketball from the Big Ten, K-State is 9 of 36 from 3 so far in the tournament. Not good.
Everyone's
and
been
now
bad
going
from
into
3.
Madison Square Garden, which is a big arena, we don't really know shooting-wise what the dynamic's going to be of that, so I'm a little worried about K-State's offense. I like Michigan State in a low-scoring game to kind of squeak one out towards the end.
And then this is going to be another fun game. This is another one on Thursday night. So by the time the show airs, we're going to know who wins. We're going to know who's right and who's wrong.
Yes.
It's Gonzaga and UCLA. These two teams have always seemed to clash in March Madness or important games, and this is no different. Blake, what do you have here?
Listen, this is a 2021 Final Four Jalen Suggs buzzer beater revenge game for UCLA. Like Bez was saying, K-State wasn't shooting the 3 well in the tournament so far. No one is shooting the 3 well in the tournament so far.
True.
I think it's like 30.6% overall for everyone. True. And this pick is contingent on the status of Adem Bona for UCLA tonight.
Bona, yep.
I saw today that he is a game-time decision. He's the big that can slow down Drew Timme. If he plays, I think UCLA handles Gonzaga. Tiger Campbell and Jaime Jaquez are great basketball players. And if they get going, showtime.
Bez, you also went with the Bruins.
Yeah, I completely agree with what Blake just said. Adam Bona playing or not playing is going to be a huge X factor. Speaking of not playing, Jalen Clark not playing for UCLA. Defensive Player of the Year, the Pac-12, just out for the tournament. And I think on Gonzaga's side, I like UCLA to win unless Julian Strother plays a really good game. Their game against Grand Canyon for Gonzaga, he had 28 points, 3 of 6 from 3, 2 of 7 from 3 against TCU, and only 10 points. So with no Jalen Clark to guard him, I think he can actually get some good open looks. And if he gets hot, I like Gonzaga, but I like UCLA to slow the game down as a whole team defensively wise. I got UCLA.
Strother certainly makes that offense go. I am going to go with Gonzaga. These two teams both kind of flying under the radar. Not a whole lot of expectations, and that's why it's dangerous in March. I am going to take the Zags. I think they edge it out barely in Vegas. And lastly, we've got the Horns and the Musketeers. This one is a clean sweep. I'm pretty sure we all picked Texas.
Yep.
Every
Hottest
single
team
one of
right
us.
now.
This is the hottest team in America.
Deepest team in America.
Deepest team in America. They've got the Big 12 tournament MVP in Dylan Dessou, who kind of came off the bench and has just been fantastic in the absence of Timmy Allen. But Timmy Allen's back now, and they've got them both.
Yeah, and especially like Texas is deep. Xavier only plays 6 guys. So we're going to see towards the end of the game, Xavier might be a little dog. Texas has a lot of guards who can make free throws.
And Texas is inspired by this Rodney Terry guy that came in the middle of the season.
Totally.
Doing a great job. I think Texas gets it done.
These are going to be a lot of fun games, guys. I'm excited for this week of March Madness. I'm excited for the rest of March Madness. Make sure you stay right here on Playmakers KU. Caroline says some more on KU women's in the WNIT. What do you got for us?
The men's basketball team had to hang up their dancing shoes sooner than we all hoped, but the women's basketball team are keeping theirs on and advancing their way through the WNIT tournament. The Jayhawks had an outstanding performance last night, defeating Nebraska 64-55. After going to a triple overtime in their last matchup with the Cornhuskers, the women's team showed they were the better team. Chandler Prater was a beast under the basket, leading the Jayhawks with 16 rebounds. Tiana Jackson followed closely behind with 12. Jackson was also able to dominate in the paint and led the way for the Jayhawks with 16 points. Although the team isn't competing in the NCAA tournament, that doesn't change the winning mindset the Jayhawks have competing in the WNIT.
I feel like you just got to be grateful for what you got. This happened for a reason. I mean, who's to say we won't win this mug and go back in the NCAA and do the same thing next year? I mean, it's just, I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Yeah, we've been told just different stories and instances. Like Arizona, they were competing in this one year, and then the next year they were in, the Big Dance. So, and they went far in it. So we just kind of, like Chandler said, just we're grateful for what we have. We feel like everything happens for a reason. So right now we're just trying to learn from this and just continue to get better each game.
The women's team will now advance to the Great Eight and play the winner of the Arkansas and Texas Tech game, which plays later tonight. But since we're talking about how the Jayhawks are dancing, it wouldn't hurt to look back at their second round win over Mizzou.
And of course, KU baseball took on the Tigers this week too. So let's check in with Sydney Clark about this historic rivalry.
Being from Missouri and coming to Kansas, a lot of people don't understand how deep the history goes and how everybody really knows, are you KU or are you MU?
Are you KU or are you MU is a question that dates all the way back to the Civil War, a historic rivalry that speaks for itself. The oldest college rivalry west of the Mississippi River, the Kansas Jayhawks and Missouri Tigers have hatred for each other like no other, and it doesn't matter what age, fans know what this means to each state. One of the best rivalries in sports came to an end when Mizzou left the Big 12 Conference in 2012. Or so we thought. This past week we saw both KU women's basketball and baseball compete against the Tigers. Though this is the first time for both women's basketball and baseball head coaches to get a taste of this showdown as a Jayhawk, they know that this rivalry game will be memorable.
I don't know how many times they'll get to play Mizzou. You know, these are the ones that you should remember and that you want to have positive memories about to tell your kids and your grandkids, etc.
This rivalry has been passed down from generation to generation and will continue to be an intense matchup for both the teams and the fan bases.
The Border Showdown will always be an historic matchup no matter what sport is playing. Coming up after the break, we will have some professional sports coverage for you. Stay tuned.
Yeah, I always just clap in this part.
This is where everyone's talking amongst themselves. Do you know how to do it? Do you know how to do it?
Are we supposed to smile?
When do we start? Somebody over here already started.
Can we talk about the piccolo part? It's the most complicated one.
It is. If you listen, you're doing it when the band's not playing.
You have to tell me when it starts. I still don't know.
Here we go. Just clapping now. No humps.
Nailed it.
I practiced this morning.
Mine was just two people.
It has a right and a wrong way of doing it. No. Wrong.
I like my way better.
I don't know how to do the end.
It's just.
I don't know the head.
It's hard by yourself.
As baseball season rapidly approaches for the major leaguers, it brings back the nostalgia of hanging out around the ballpark, tailgating, and for a kid like me, ripping open packs of baseball cards, looking for that holy grail. Our Chad Cushing has more.
What's up, Playmakers? It's Chad, and today I've got something pretty cool to share with you. We have a fresh pack of 2023 Topps Series 1 baseball. We've got J-Rod on the cover, and what better way to celebrate a fantastic World Baseball Classic and the opening day right around the corner than opening a pack of baseball cards. So, let's get right into this thing. Next up, we got Andrew Benintendi, Christian Javier, who the Astros just picked up on a pretty sweet deal. Going to be an Astro for a long time. As an Angel fan, that hurts me because this dude absolutely owns us. So Christian Javier is a great one. And oh my God, this pack is loaded so far. We got Aaron Judge. Talk about your 62 homer guy.
Chad, I always remembered playing with Pokemon cards when I was a kid, but you can miss me with that. Give me the holographic Ohtani over Charizard any day of the week. You can catch the rest of Chad's segment on our socials this week. But speaking of Ohtani, he led his native country of Japan to a World Baseball Classic championship as they knocked off the USA 3-2 in the championship game Tuesday. But for a full breakdown of the tournament, here's my guy Richie Obaid.
Hey, thanks, Jackson. I know you were watching, having a good time eating your popcorn, but listen, the World Baseball Classic is something baseball fans across the world look forward to seeing every few years. But due to COVID, fans had to wait 6 years until it returned. And now let me be the first to say, the wait was well worth it. The WBC works pretty much the exact same as the World Cup. Teams must first start in pool play, and then the first and second place teams in each pool advance to a one-game elimination-style tournament. Advancing out of Pool A was Cuba and Italy, Pool B was Japan and Australia, Pool C was Mexico and the US, and finally Pool D was Venezuela and Puerto Rico. Pool play held so much excitement and great games, but the only thing that truly matters is the one-game elimination-style tournament. So enough about the pool play. Let's break down what happened in the WBC quarterfinals. The Cubans got things started by beating the Aussies in a nail-biter 4-3. The Italians got blown out by superstar Shohei Ohtani and his loaded Japan team. Then Mexico went down 4-0 in the very first inning in Puerto Rico. Isaac Paredes strung 3 RBIs together and helped power Mexico to beat Puerto Rico 5-4. The final match of the quarterfinals saw arguably the best game of the whole tournament. The Americans and Venezuelans went to war. USA took an early 3-0 lead, but Team Venezuela kept fighting back, which set up the dramatics that ensued in the top of the 8th inning.
0-2. Turner to left field and deep. Peralta back. It is gone!
Trey Turner put on his best Captain America costume and launched a grand slam to put the USA ahead 9-7, which will ultimately be the final score. All right, now in the semis. USA fans did not have to sit on the edge of their seats, thanks again to Trey Turner, because they easily beat Cuba. However, Japan fans did, because it took a walk-off double in the bottom of the 8th inning by Munetaka Murakami to give Japan the 6-5 win and send Team Japan to the WBC Championship. So it comes down to this. Team USA versus Team Japan for the 2023 WBC Championship. Things got off to a great start for Team USA, as again, Trey Turner found a way to hit the ball out of the ballpark. But Japan didn't get here by accident. Murakami got things rolling in the finals with a deep home run to tie things up at 1. Japan would then tack on 2 more runs to make it 3-1 in favor of Japan going into the 8th inning. USA then started flexing their heroic muscles as Kyle Schwarber took Yu Darvish deep to bring Team USA within 1 late in the game. Then USA would pitch a clean bomb half in the 8th inning, which meant they were down 1 going into the 9th. However, USA was not happy to see sensational talent Shohei Ohtani come out of the bullpen to close the 9th for Team Japan. Ohtani looked rough to start the night. He walked the first batter, but then would make up for this fast by pitching a double play ball. I have to say, the scriptwriters did it again. One of the greatest players baseball has ever seen, Mike Trout, stepped up to the plate down 1 in the top of the 9th inning to face his teammate Shohei Ohtani to try and keep America alive.
Ohtani's ready. Trout's ready. 3-2. He struck him out! Ohtani strikes out Trout, and Japan's back on top of the baseball world.
And just like that, 3 strikes later, Ohtani struck out Trout and captured Team Japan's 3rd WBC championship. While talking about the WBC did nothing but rev up my engine and make me want to floor it to the next installment of this classic. Sadly, we'll wait for that. But what we don't have to wait for is literally talking about the athletes who literally step on it.
Thanks, Richie. Now from the diamond to the grid. The Formula One season is underway as the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix finished in a dramatic fashion. I'm Lily Hennick here with your latest Formula One update. Fernando Alonso's podium at the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix was the 100th of his career, but it will be remembered as more of a confusing and farcical situation. Alonso celebrated on the podium, then was hit with a penalty that dropped him to 4th place. But later, the penalty was overturned by the same set of race stewards. The Spaniard was initially penalized when the race stewards decided a rear car jack was initially in contact with the car while they were serving an earlier penalty for grid box infringement. After Aston Martin appealed, it was agreed that touching the car while serving a penalty did not break the rules. An FIA spokesperson blamed the conflicting precedents and said the confusion would be addressed ahead of the next race in Australia. Following the confusion, Alonso had his podium finish, the 100th of his career, reinstated, and Mercedes driver George Russell, who briefly benefited, was relegated back to 4th place. Alonso was extremely critical of the sport's governing body, telling Sky Sports F1 after the race, quote, "I was on the podium, I did the pictures, took the trophy, and celebrated. Now I have 3 apparently less points. I don't have 15, I have 12. Alonso went on to say, quote, "I think it's more an FIA poor show. You cannot apply a penalty 35 laps after the pit stop. They had enough time to inform the penalty. If I knew that, maybe I would then open up 11 seconds to the car behind. George Russell, who initially benefited from Alonso's penalty, admitted at the time that he did not agree with the call. The final standings were confirmed with Sergio Perez in first, followed by Red Bull teammate Max Verstappen and Fernando Alonso in third. In 1 week, constructors and their drivers will be back on the grid for the Australian Grand Prix. Coming up after the break, Jackson is here with the fun play of the week. Stay tuned.
Where you go to college makes a statement about you. This place will become a part of you, your identity for life. The University of Kansas, a great place to be you.
Welcome back. For this week's Fun Play of the Week, we're going to some JUCO ball between Butler and Northwest Florida State. We've got Caleb Golden in transition, where Mama hides the cookies. He goes up, up, and away for the flush. Butler would end up falling to Northwest Florida State 71-59. Speaking of JUCO basketball, we got some more JUCO news, and who else but JUCO Breeze. Take it away, Joe Blake.
That dunk from Caleb Golden was impressive. But there's also a Jayhawk that's taking flight at the National Junior College Tournament in Hutchinson. Former walk-on and 2008 national champion Brad Witherspoon is leading Dodge City Community College to a successful year in its first year on the job.
Witherspoon's time at Kansas wasn't always as sweet as winning the national championship. In fact, Coach Self almost sent him packing.
Julian Wright and myself, we decided to go to 7-Eleven that night, like right close to curfew. We got back and it was like 11:02. So we had missed technically curfew. I'll never forget, man, he busts in the door and goes off on us for being late to curfew, even though it was only a couple of minutes. And he says, Spoon, if we lose tomorrow, you're done. That's what he said to me. And we played Texas in the championship the next day with Kevin Durant. We were down 32-10. And so I was sweating bullets, man. I thought that was it.
Before leading Dodge City to the Elite Eight, he was coaching at NOC Tonkawa, where he was coaching Federico, who helped lead Pitt to their first NCAA tournament since 2016.
Man, he surprises me. I told him I didn't know if he was high major, but I guess he proved me wrong. That they've done a really, really good job with him at Pitt.
Thanks to Coach Witherspoon for taking the time to sit down with me. Now we'll head back to the studio with Jackson.
That will do it for this week's show, Playmakers. Thank you for tuning into our coverage from March Madness, the WNIT, and of course our shows here on Friday at Media Crossroads. And remember, it's not about the game you played, but the plays you made. Rock Chalk.